Parking Day is happening on September 19th. It used to be called No Car Day. And we want to do something to our student associations of the university interested. So this happened at the beginning of August, so it was too late to really plan anything like street closure or even really parking spots. But we said, well, we want to get people involved. Let's have all these great conversations we're having, like let's kind of make them a little bit more public and get more people involved. So that was what this specific thing happened. But we also said, like, let's, all these amazing associations along Mackay, just kind of put a table out and welcome people in. The PR Annex up on Mackay, they've got, I think, 7 or 8 different organizations that have like open doors, and you just go in and they put out like carpet and seating, and it's funky, yeah. So that's kind of what we're doing today. All right. So yeah, Silvano, did you maybe want to introduce yourself?
My name is Silvano De la Llata, and I'm an associate professor in the Department of Geography, Planning, and Environment. And I'm also the co-director of the Cluster of Design, Art, and Community of the Next Generation Cities Institute. I am an architect by training and a planner and an urban designer. I've specialized in public space from the perspective of design, but also from the perspective of how people use the space, how people what is the psychology, the micro psychology of the different uses of spaces, the community part, and the sociology, and also the politics of public space. And I use a particular methodology for the planning of design and the design of public spaces called open urbanisms, which incorporates kind of like open systems to community engagement workshops. And it draws from different theories of what is called pattern language design, placemaking, and also from the work that I did for my thesis, which is the study of protest encampments across.
Can you repeat that?
Protest encampments. Yes.
Oh, protest encampments.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you were saying like a Latin word for a specific.
It does come
I
from
don't know.
Latin.
Protest encampment. Okay, yeah.
And so I studied the Occupy Wall Street encampments and the Indignados encampments, but I did also looked at other encampments in Paris, here in Mexico City, and I drew a methodology that kind of we can say that capitalizes on improvisation, on spontaneity, and we can still call it planning. and Montreal was the perfect place for that. It was the place where I felt welcome, having this very unique type of way of looking at public space. After touring and talking to many planning departments and in North America and Latin America, in Europe and so on, this felt like the right place. The Montrealers are very open, very. I always say that in Montreal people are more excited about what's new than anxious, and they're more open to good things happening when things are still kind of uncertain than feeling like, oh, something's gonna go wrong. That's my sense after 10 years. Last week I've been here for 10 years. Exactly like last week was my 10th anniversary. So I'm very happy to be here in Montreal and doing what I'm doing.
Well, bienvenidos.
Yeah. Gracias.
Niraj, maybe we'll start with you. I guess, if you want to introduce yourself and how you ended up here.
Yeah, my name is Niraj Dayanandan. I'm a recent graduate of Concordia. I just finished my undergrad in urban planning with a minor in sustainability. I had the privilege of being involved a lot during my undergrad, different places with different people. At the side of my major in urban planning, I was part of the Urban Planning Association, which is a student association which oversees kind of all the activities and the going abouts for planning students and study students here at the geography department. I was VP Finance in 2023 and then VP Academic for my last year in 2024. And concurrently, I was also the president of my student association for my minor for sustainability, which is awesome, which is also based at Loyola. So very different spatial contexts too, leading student associations downtown and over there. So, but along with that, I was fortunate to be really surrounded by a lot of folks who wanted to work on similar projects. And after taking some really cool urban planning classes, I decided, why don't we try this, on our front door, literally on Mackay. And it's been such an integral part to the Concordia community for so long. And that's how I kind of got involved there. But alongside that, over at Loyola, I, myself and a few other folks decided to put up a green rooftop on campus there, looking at how we can grow food on roofs, which is kind of cool. And yeah, just a bunch of cool things that I've been a part of, fortunate to be a part of them. And now as I start my master's over at McGill in urban planning, I'm super excited to kind of go on with that same knowledge that I gained here in a completely different context.
Right on. Sweet. Well, we're going to dig into the work you did with the UPA in a second. I wanted to maybe come back to you, Silvano, specifically if you wanted to introduce the Urban Labs course. And we'd spoken about a great collaboration you had with Côté Neige and DG. So maybe just as we talk about, what does transformation of a public space look like? I think that experience that you had with that course, I think was a really good example for people to understand.
So this course, it's a studio course, what they call in sometimes it's called a caption course. These are courses that go throughout the year and that are very hands-on and that usually focus on a case study. I started teaching that 10 years ago, so this would be the 10th time I teach this because I was in sabbatical. And this is a course that incorporates all of the knowledge that the students are getting from other classes that have learned and that are learning in other courses, and they apply it in that course. So the three things that the course has is that it's hands-on, it's site-specific, so we work with an actual site, is based on real-life case studies, and it's also, well, then it's holistic and non-linear, in the sense that the clicking of the course comes towards the end. It's not like and then and then this is the end of the story, right? So since day one, since I arrived, we were contacted by the arrondissement of Côte-des-Neiges and NDG. And they were curious about this method that I mentioned before, and we applied it with the students. It was done in the context of the 375th anniversary of Montreal. They wanted to redesign two placettes in front of the park chalets of two parks, one in Côte-des-Neiges and one in NDG. So we tested all of this with the people from the neighborhood and with students, and it was a success, I think, because a lot of the ideas that we came up with in the charrettes and the workshops a charrette is an accelerated design process, were implemented to some maybe 80%, which could be considered a victory in when it comes to applied studios in planning. And so that was the first time we tried it, and then over the years we kept doing it with case studies all over town. We did an alleyway here just back. We designed that. We did, the campus. We called that project Put the Car in Concordia. We worked 2 years in Chinatown to redesign Clark and Rue de la Rochetière. And those are the ones that I can think of. And we did also a community center in Park X. A lot of these ideas are kind of like put just in the archive and then later used. A lot of them are ongoing projects because that's how planning is, right? Like it takes time, it develops little by little, it's emergent. You pull from different voices and ideas and so on. And but we're very happy with how things have unfolded, because the work that we do with the students, with Niraj here, was my student a couple of years ago, and like we did this awesome work in Chinatown, and all of these are still like ideas that are in use. We pay very close attention to talking to the communities, and then also to make these ideas available in publications that are accessible. Most of the time we put them in Creative Commons so that they can be used in the future. That is one of the keys for the ideas to have an afterlife, that they are accessible, that there is a repository where they can get the information, but also that they can use that information. Sometimes in that chain of events, the ideas get lost, and some people and consider the whole project as one version of the project, and then they think it's like either this or that project. And here the idea is that all of the collection of little ideas from the project can be teased out and used after. That's pretty much what we do, and I could go on, but we only have half an hour.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, did you want to speak about potentially doing something with Mackay this year?
Yeah, well, it was great news to hear of the work that you guys have been doing at Mackay. I was very happy to hear of how all the momentum that there is around it, and I'm also very glad to see that it's a grassroots project that comes from the students, that the students had this initiative of doing. I'm not doing the thing with the microphone. It's like when you're playing the guitar and then you look at the guitar and you stop talking. So it's amazing. That's exactly the type of drive that you need in a project that comes from the bottom up. And so here, what better than the students calling from having better urban planning, from having better ways of using the space, making the street more lively and so on. And in a day like this, which is a parking day, or what was the other name?
No car day.
No car day. I remember this is also a great initiative that when I arrived, I discovered there was a kind of a pan-Montrealer a student organization around this event. It was very interesting to see. So there is that. Like that is very unique of Montreal, that people are open to good things happening.
Yes.
And so this year we're gonna work on the pedestrianization of Mackay. So we're gonna study that, and it's gonna link to, in a way, it's gonna be informed by two projects that we already did in the area. One is the Bishop Mackay alleyway. We worked on that for a year. We have 10 posters with detailed information about uses and users and the different spaces that we proposed. And then the other is this project called Put the Core in Concordia that we did 5 years ago during the pandemic. So I think there's very good momentum to work on the placemaking side, on trying to make this project that reflects all of the things that there are to celebrate among all of the stakeholders. I guess that would be a way to describe it.
Yeah, right on.
And so we're excited. We're kickstarting this next. We already showed the case study to the students, and they're very excited, and we're very happy to join this momentum.
Right on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the generators of that momentum is here, Niraj. I mean, maybe did you want to describe like UPA report process leading up to the charrette? And then,
for sure.
We do have slides, so when you're ready for the slides, if you wanted to show some visuals, we'll call those up.
Yeah, I mean, I can start about kind of how this all came to be. You know, like myself and a few other folks from the UPA starting this is not a new thing. I mean, Alex, you were part of this movement, you know, back. Donnie was part of that movement, you know. This is something that's extended a lot past just last year, just, you know, even a decade ago, just even 2 decades ago. It's something that's been generating momentum since the 80s, arguably. And ever since the kind of construction of the hall building in the 60s, there was this push towards getting this area more like becoming the center of campus. And as a result, I mean, student groups have gone back and forth over years towards getting the street pedestrianized, or getting the street a character that's reflective of a campus space, like many other campuses in Montreal and North America have. And last year, I mean, this is quite literally building off of myself in planning studio and the fellow experiences of my fellow urban studies students doing planning studios. It's like we get to learn about a space for an entire year. Like we spent the first component and first semester learning how to even look at an area, explore, and in the second half, see how we can integrate ideas, but never coming up with a direct solution, but coming up with an idea to work with the community and to work with the stakeholders who live and experience Mackay Street, or any public space for that matter, in their respective way. So when I had my position at the UPA, a lot of the kind of outreach that we had was building upon other student movements that were active at the time. Our umbrella union, the Arts and Science Federation of Associations, had mobilized a kind of group towards researching Mackay Street, researching how we can get a pedestrian street on campus. And they took it to city council and went all the way through to talking directly with the policymakers involved with making this change. But the most important part is that they did a lot of research and they put a lot of work into it. And when I had looked at kind of the files to see how we can start this movement again from a planning lens, it was really interesting. There were so many angles we could have taken. It reminded me a lot of our planning studio for Chinatown back in 2023. And we came about just meeting every so often, making sure that we weren't just urban planning or studies students involved, making sure that we had folks from every single faculty, from every different background, coming to just voice their opinion on what they wanted to see on campus. And we just started, drawing and thinking and making a sort of idea of how we want to do outreach, how we want to do strategic planning, how we want to communicate to the university to get other people involved. And that's kind of how it started. And we spend, without obviously the resources from that's what I really like about Concordia, is that you're always only 1 or 2 people away from getting everyone involved in something from every level, which is really awesome. And I feel like it's really hard to find an institution. But being able to get so many people rallied around this thing so quickly, and then May 5th of this year happened, where we organized a charrette,
Could you maybe just roll back and say, like, what happened? What was May 5th?
What was May 5th? Okay. Yeah. I can get so we have slides here that kind of encompass the summary of May 5th, but just a brief introduction. We had put together a sort of day of learning with the community, designing, re-envisioning, as we called it, with the community, of what we wanted Mackay to look like. And that involved a lot of planning with the community, but not planning in that sense, but more so, how should we communicate to the community, the Concordia community, the outside community? How do we get everyone involved? Because how do you identify if a space, like you're actually talking to everyone involved in the space, right? So we had to really come up with a time and a space to involve everyone, and the fourth space, being directly on Mackay Street, was really easy for that in terms of an actual location. But we spent some time contacting the Peter-McGill community table, businesses, students, faculty, staff, residents, everyone we could, to all come together on one day to talk about Mackay Street and the future that we want to have, and just a discussion, just so we can have a modern consensus of what we want this space to look like. And the last time it was done, it was 2010. And then before that, there was sort of conversations happening in 2002, 2005. But for the most part, it's never involved everyone. I don't think you can ever involve everyone, but it's never really involved every side of the table, if you will. So that day we started with a panel. We had Stephania and Ode and Osio and they're over there, all on May 5th, leading a super interesting conversation about just this entire district and how we can make it safe for kids, promote artwork, the importance of planning pedestrian spaces and how to do it in a way that's inclusive of everybody. And
what did you find, or
awesome.
What were the results of the day?
So we led 3 sessions. So we had the panel in the morning. Then we had an exercise called, it's from a sociologist, De Bono, called 6 Thinking Hats exercise, where I think if you can go back one slide here, you could see all of the sort of hats that people would have to wear. And the idea of that is, it was an exercise in putting yourself in other people's shoes. So thinking in ways that wasn't using your biases in there. It was an exercise in getting groups of people, different backgrounds, stakeholder groups, to think about the space in different ways. So we had, let's say, think 10 minutes on being extremely neutral. Like put on the white hat in this case, which is just the facts about the street. What is the current condition of the street? The yellow hat, which is like be really optimistic. What are the values and the benefits of this space? The black hat, which is the kind of what's the pessimistic side of like pedestrianization of this topic, and so forth, with emotion and creativity, and with all of us facilitators being kind of the blue hat, the management and guiding the conversation. And we had these groups just write down all of these really cool ideas and their own perceptions of the space together. And we can go into it now, I think, starting with the white hat and how just like the neutral facts that everyone sort of agrees on about Mackay Street. I mean, you see the biggest one for, a neutral fact about Mackay Street is the lack of green space. The fact that it's one way, it's in Concordia, there's businesses, there's a lot of young people nearby. But we also see things like motorcycles and buildings and connects and crossings and flows. So all of these sort of words and topics that relate to the existing condition, which is really interesting because it has its own biases too, because the people that were at the event were answering this and that's how they experienced the space. But this was really, really interesting to do. And as we can go through the next hats, you can really see how that dynamic kind of changes with the emotion side, or the constructive side. So what's the most kind of values and benefits of the system right now? Like improving quality of life. I mean, it's something that, Silvano and all the students, we really focus on, right? With that kind of sort of urban acupuncture technique, is how can we look at community, look at the surrounding, businesses, communities, spaces, and reduce sort of the urban ills that we have, while not doing it from a way that's top down, but doing it something that's grassroots. So that was the constructive, the value benefits. Going forward, I believe now it's the emotion. Oh, pessimistic. Oh yeah, now we can see the big words: homelessness, houselessness, unhoused populations, parking loss, concerns around mobility, especially for the businesses. So we had done a survey before May 5th, looking at how businesses get their deliveries in and out, and to see if they were favorable towards pedestrianization. And for a large majority of them on Mackay Street, they were pretty favorable to it, and they could accommodate that sort of thing. But for the businesses around the street, there was a completely different condition that prior mandates for pedestrianized Mackay from student groups had not explicitly mentioned. And it was really interesting to see how that's changed. And you can see a bunch of interesting topics here: capital, police, gentrification. Some people saw protests as a bad thing, rather from the lens of pessimism. So yeah, it was really interesting to see this, and going forward now with the emotions hat. So this is my favorite one, because you can really see this is really rooted in everyone's individual biases, and this is about the movement itself. So were they frustrated about the movement happening? Were they felt powerless? They thought that Mackay Street was dangerous, or there was jaywalking. I mean, that's a really common one. But also the biggest one here on screen is hopeful. They were hopeful about this movement. This is something that we've been talking about for decades, and it's something that now we're seeing happen every single year. People know about it. People are talking about it. And that's the best part, I think, about this whole thing, is that everyone, despite all these other words, they have hope to transform this space into something much bigger than what it currently is. And doing things like through pedagogy, through these conversations, through working with different community groups, that's the way to really encompass the space like holistically. And now as we go on, I think now to the last one, which is creativity. And this will build into what we did later on in the day, which was the kind of design workshop, is how could we kind of envision the space? Like, what do we want in it? So parks, water features. There was a big movement that day for skateboard parks. Yeah. There was all sorts of type of infrastructure that we see common with pedestrian spaces. Art was a giant part of it. We had an amazing panel speaker on art and murals. We had a lot of conversations around urban agriculture, which is really interesting. I know you had Jackie earlier, a conversation. And there's push and pulls in all these sorts of things, but at least envisioning a way to construct them or envisioning a way to put them in the space and interact with them, that's the first step. And along with hope, that's the only way it's going to get done. Great. And then the next one should be the design workshop. So right after the De Bono 6 Hats exercise, it was the perfect time to actually draw and really create something through groups, through all of our different backgrounds, with all of the knowledge we have on the space, and also the knowledge that we're continually learning throughout the day, to really envision what we want the space to look like. So we had groups of 4 or 5 people, 5 groups total, and we gave an hour to kind of draw, design, talk amongst each other, really go the full distance. Not even limited it to Mackay Street, but extending to Bishop, extending to St. Catherine, and going all over the place. There's entire Quartier Concordia that I'm sure you discussed with the campus master planners.
Yeah. It came up.
It came up, and that's the big part. You have to. That's actually something we learned in Silvano's class. You can't limit yourself to just one space. You need to dream big. You have to dream big and negotiate your way down if you have to, but you have to look at every single angle of things. So the design workshop, I can go through some of the kind of excerpts of what we saw that day. There was some focus specifically on Mackay Street, greening the street, putting trees in the street, the alleyways behind the hall building, which is now being constructed into something new, making Maisonneuve a lot more accessible, regreening and reconstructing the alleyways behind all of the annex buildings as well, and also creating entranceways into Quartier Concordia. Like you can see here in the yellow sides, like those are entranceways, because entries are also extremely important and relevant to a space and add that sort of placemaking factor. So all these sorts of discussions and ideas that were floating around, and it's awesome because now we have evidence of this, and we don't have to limit ourselves to this, but we have evidence of that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Right on.
That was the day.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for showing us. Did you want to just react to what you saw?
Well, more than react, adding to this initiative. Well, first of all, I'm happy to see that all of this knowledge is kind of like this is being recuperated and used, and I really like the dynamism of this method of the hats is interesting.
Yeah.
Exercises like this really trigger people to get engaged from a perspective of how they feel in the space, what are the possibilities for the space. This in relation to this, and in addition to that, there are a lot of things that we can kind of like that can plug into the laboratory. In the laboratory, after years, we've developed a method that works very smoothly. I think that we have 5 teams, one of what we call it hard design, that works together with the second team that is soft design. So it's permanent structures and temporary structures, so that there is always some kind of flow. There are things that are going to be there always, that are more like concrete, structural steel, and so on, and that are immovable. And then all of the less dense and movable things that are like seats, bus stops, trash cans, vegetation, and so on, so that the place can have different ways of using it, different moments. And then we work with sustainability, community engagement, and accessibility and mobility. And just to have an idea of what that is, the fourth space is actually a very good example of that, of this relationship between like hard and soft. Like it's a platform that is pretty much just concrete. It's an open floor type of floor plan, and then you do what, like for example, what we're doing right now. We're creating it with the different things. This creates a space, and then this is movable and adaptable and so on. So that is something that we are very keen on, like to create spaces that don't have a fixed use and that could adapt through uses throughout the day and throughout the year. By proposing the least amount of permanent things so that you can have more possibility. Usually what we have is, say, we have the opposite. We have like 70% permanent, 30% movable, and here we flip it. It has to be some 30 or 40% permanent, and that would be something good enough to host different activities and moments and so on. And then the rest is just movable things that can be moved, and so that the students, the stakeholders, the users in general are able to move things around and then kind of like adapt their space for the uses. That's one of the things that we've developed there throughout these 10 years, like learning every time we added something to the laboratory and to the method. And so right now I'd like to think it's a very well-oiled machine that works very well with the students. Another very good thing is that we try to work as much as possible as if the studio was an actual firm, like a design firm. So there's more than competition, there's collaboration among the different teams. They need to share their drawings, they need to share information, as it would be in real life. Like this is what we did, and then like on top of that, we're going to put a sculpture, okay, and that sculpture, the community engagement team looks for a way to integrate it to the community, the sustainability teams, ways to have less carbon footprint and so on. And that is the objective, that also this becomes an opportunity for the students to see how urban design and planning looks like in the professional world, and also by talking to the people from the city, from community organizations, from facility management in Concordia, the student organizations and so on, they get a very real sense of how the business of planning is going to be.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll underline a few things you said, and I definitely love this idea of, proposing less things that are immovable, because in allowing for people to make changes to the space, it allows ownership to spread. When people, in French, the repurpose, right, to take ownership over a space, because they're putting the vibrancy in it, they're putting in the community and what defines them and what they value, right? So I love that. I guess thinking about time, I guess what would be, from your perspective as a professor and urban planner, but then of course you, in terms of all of your involvement and how you've dove into your undergrad, and now I'm assuming your master's as well. I guess what would be your advice for someone who's listened in or stopped by these kiosks, is just joining our community? How would you suggest that they take that step to getting involved?
I guess I would say that, well, the first thing is that look at things with curiosity. So when there's something new, I think that the approach should be curiosity. What is happening here? And openness, and being open to good things happening. But also to think that in order for that to happen, you need to get involved. And transcend that reactive way of engaging. We live in a very reactive
No, we don't.
world. This is a world of thumbs up, thumbs down, crying faces, and angry faces, But it's always a reaction. And also, maybe another way of reacting is by grading something. Okay, did you like your Uber drive or not? A Yelp review, things like that. But we're not so much used to engaging proactively and saying, okay, this is a more engaged, realistic, curious, and open way of looking at a problem. I think I could contribute something to that and be more proactive. I think that would be what I would advise people who would like to join this endeavor.
Nice. And Niraj?
Just do before you even know how. I mean, if you keep waiting around to figure out how to go about something, you'll never end up doing it. And that was the biggest part for me. I mean, back in 2023, I was not involved in anything. And post-pandemic, I went to school, went home, didn't do anything. But finding your community, just taking the leap forward, being uncomfortable, and then just doing. Have any idea in mind to just do it, whether it be in the space, whether it be in anything. just do it. And there'll be people who are also like-minded, who also don't know how to do it, who will help contribute to that. So yeah, that's the best piece of advice I guess I can give for all the stuff that we've been able to do. It's, just do.
Right on. Okay, well, we'll end it there, but was there anything that you had wanted to speak about that I didn't get to, or anything that you wanted to mention before we close out?
I think there'll be a lot of questions. Like, we have this whole year to start. I see this more as a beginning of a conversation. There will be time for people to think about how they feel and so on about all of this project. And so, yeah, there will be things that will come up, and we welcome people who want to, like, from all sides of the society, like even like beyond the students, like something like in these other projects, like just hearing from people from business, like say, like they wear different hats, they have different agendas, and also think beyond. I guess another thing would be think beyond this kind of like clash and dichotomies of pedestrian, non-pedestrian, right? There are things in between. There are like shared streets, there are pedestrian priority streets, there are things that you can do with movable furniture, with bollards that go up and down, with vegetation, with stands and so on. So there is a lot of opportunity to do something that caters to that makes sense for everybody, for most people.
Yeah, love it.
That's it.
I guess from our end is just thanks to you, Alex. I mean, one of the hardest thing I think with student movements is that students as a group are very transient. Like, we're here for 3-4 years in our undergrad, and then we're off to other things. But having a space, I mean, literally the fourth space, but also help from the Dean of Students and Peter-McGill and everybody that has been dedicated to keeping this movement alive has been awesome. It's the only way, because it's easy to restart things, but you always get left up in that kind of beginning stages for a little too long. Yeah. But now being able to continue this momentum for a long time has been really, really great and really inspiring to see.
Right on. Okay. Hey. Well, for the tape, thank you for Space so much for putting up with us.
For 2 years now, many years on this.
Alex, thank you.
Did you want to close it off in some way?
I can close it off. I could just, but I gotta thank you, Alex, for being here, bringing us all together. I know everyone's a whole team effort, but also just kind of reminding us that Fourth Space is actually part of a bigger part of the city, and we look out at it all, but like today, we kind of felt like we were able to bring piece of it in. So thank you all, Niraj, Silvano. It's great to have you back in the space also. Okay, that's enough for me. We're gonna close up the live stream now and also close up the Zoom, but just remember this will remain available on our YouTube channel once we do some edits. But most importantly, you should have a fantastic weekend. Okay, thank you.